Hi there, my name is Pablo Requena, and I want to show you this guitar that I'm polishing. This is an instrument that I've built for a client and it's nearly ready to go. It's built with a spruce top and Indian rosewood back and sides. It's got this beautiful rosette. This is not the usual that I normally make, but in this case my client wanted to build this, which is inspired in Santos Hernandez, so there it is. It looks really beautiful. And what I wanted to show you is a little bit of the process of the glossing up. This is a stage which I know I have people asking me questions that it's a little bit tricky and a bit difficult to be able to get the intensity of gloss that you want so that the guitar looks like a mirror and super shiny. So what I've done here so far is I've done pretty much all the steps of French polishing, and if you want to do French polishing yourself, there is a series of videos in my channel here that you can find, and that will give you most of the information that you're going to need to be able to do a good job of French polishing. However, there's always a few things that are a little bit more complicated with French polishing, and even though I've touched on some of those topics in previous videos, like difficult areas to polish and things like that, in this video what I wanted to do is just to tackle a little bit of the glossing up. So to be able to get a really good gloss in your guitar, first you need to make sure that your guitar has very flat surfaces. So once you've got to a level where you're happy with the amount of polish that you have in the instrument, what I've been doing is doing a bit of cutback with a small block. This one is made of cork and 1500 sandpaper. This one is actually in a cloth form. And basically, you want to cut back all the surfaces with this to the point that you get a semi-matte surface all the way along. The more matte surfaces that you have, the flatter that they are. What it means is that you're going to have to spend a little bit of time, careful with the edges, because it's always very easy to sand through the edges, so be careful there. But especially in the front and in the back, if you get this cut back with a small sanding block, this is going to be very flat. And that means that it's going to be easier to get a good gloss on your instrument. The same with the sides. Here you need to be a little bit more careful with this area of the waist because this is not flat at all. It's flat in this direction, but obviously not here. So you have to be careful a little bit how you do that, but it is doable. And now what we're going to do is to work with the same rubber that we've been using to apply the polish. But this time what we're doing is that apart from polishing up a little bit the matte surfaces that we have, we also need to start achieving that final gloss that we want to have. I've already done a little bit here, but what I want to show you is that to achieve that gloss, basically I've got a container with a little bit of shellac and most of it's alcohol. So you can see that this mix is very low in or low concentration of shellac and it's mostly alcohol. That means that what we're doing now here is reactivating the polish that we have on the surfaces, even though it's reasonably dry, and that will start bringing the gloss up again. And we need to be able to do that with a very small amount of oil to get the rubber to flow smoothly. But as we work in the process of glossing up, we need to stop using the oil because we need to be removing all the oil with the low concentration of shellac mix. So I've already done a little bit of that, of polishing with a little bit of oil, and you can see the guitar looks fairly glossy, but it's not a true gloss. This is a gloss that comes from the fact that obviously shellac is glossy, but it's an oily finish. So we are now in the process of removing all this oil that is in the surface. I don't know if it will show in the video, but it does, as I rub my hand, I can use my hand to remove some of the oil that's in the surface. I can also use a clean cloth to do that. And we can do that in all the surfaces that we're going to be working with. So I prefer to do it with my hand, actually. I think it's a bit more effective at removing excess oil. But nevertheless, there's still oil in the surface that need to be worked away from the surface. So to do that, we are going to get the same rubber that we've been using, and this rubber is now, I haven't been using oil for a few sessions. So I'm going to spray away from the guitar. I'm going to spray a little bit of this mix into the rubber. So this rubber is, or this mix is mostly alcohol and only a little bit of shellac. And now with low pressure, I'm going to start spreading and softening the surfaces, and then I'm going to increase the pressure a little bit. Now this is the key point where I cannot show you in a video how much pressure. You need to gauge this by yourself. But basically, I'm also going to work always with the grain. I'm not going to be doing circles now anymore. And what I want to do is to cover the whole surface. And as I notice that the alcohol now is not so active, I can gradually start increasing the pressure with my rubber. This is a delicate process because you don't want to have any hiccups here where if you put too much pressure, the rubber could kind of come out of your hand a little bit, and then with your nails you could scratch the guitar. So you have to be very focused on what you're doing in here. Also notice how my rubber has this little edge here, which is what's gonna get to this corner right next to the ebony. And I'm not gonna go into that corner too often. I'm just gonna go there from time to time to make sure that I am reactivating the polish that is there, as well as removing the oil. But I really don't want to overdo these areas. Here you can see that this guitar has no bridge yet. So all I've got is masking tape in this area, which means that by the time I got everything done and I remove the tape, I'm going to have a perfect place where to fit the bridge, and the polish is going to come up to the bridge really well all the way along. This is a really good way of polishing the guitar so that the polish around the bridge turns out to be absolutely perfect. So I'm not going to spend a long time in the soundboard. I'm now going to move on to the next area. So now I'm going to hold the guitar from the neck and I'm going to rest it on one edge, and with the same amount of alcohol that I had in the rubber, I'm going to go up here, and actually no, I'm going to need a tiny bit. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of alcohol with very little polish. Okay, that's it. Now I can see that I'm melting a little bit of the shellac that I've got here. And now again, with that tip, I want to get into this corner, but that's it. I'm not going to do any more. And now I'm going to do the heel. So I lean it here on my shoulder. And that's it. Now I leave it alone. Ah, okay. Did you see how the rubber stopped? So I had to be a little bit careful that I don't get those stops in the rubber. Let me see if that's left a mark or not. No, it hasn't. But you have to be careful that that doesn't happen. Now I'm going to put a tiny bit of alcohol in the other side. The same, I'm started with very light pressure. I just want to reactivate the polish that it's on the guitar already. And now I'm starting to increase the pressure a little bit. Now I want to do the back. Here I can see that I've still got areas where the shine could be more intense, especially down here and up here. So I got more work to do here for the glossing up. But basically, this is a process where you can do a little bit at a time and then let it dry as much as possible. So usually what I do with this is that I do a short session like we're doing here for this video. And then tomorrow morning I will come back to this and do this again. And tomorrow morning the polish will be dry enough to tolerate a little bit more glossing up. And I will be doing that for the next few days. And you'll see how the gloss comes back really well. Now I am applying a little bit more pressure. And this area that was a little bit dull at the bottom, at the base, is looking better. So now I can do the neck. So the first thing that I'm going to do is the head. So I'm going to hold the guitar over here and just do a little bit. This looks really glossy already, but there's no harm in doing a little bit more as we're doing the rest of the instrument. Then I'm going to do this upper area of the neck where I got these curves. So I really want to get into them in the same way that I already did the heel when I did the sides. And now I'm going to pick up the guitar from here, putting my hand inside and just holding it from the fingerboard because I want to also do a little bit on the head. And then finally, I'm going to do the neck, for which I'm going to put a little bit of this mix into here. And I'm going to hold the guitar in these slots. And now I can do a little bit here. Now the neck is very solid. This is not going to break. So here you can put much more pressure than anywhere else. And that will also bring the gloss up with a little bit more ease. Always making sure that the rubber is not going to stick. Okay, so this is one round of glossing up. There will be several more to do here, but now that's all I'm going to do until the next session, probably tomorrow morning. And once you've done this like five or six times, you might still decide that you could get even a little bit more gloss, or you might feel that the surface still has a tiny bit of oil left to it. That can be the case because removing all the oil, it can be a little bit slow. So what I will be doing for the very final part of the job is to use a series of polishing compounds of different grades. I've got these ones from StewMac. You can get them in different places. And I will be using that in the whole guitar to do a little bit of wrap work, and with a nice clean cloth, you can go through the grades with these polishing compounds, and that will end up removing any traces of oil that might be left in the surfaces and finish off bringing up that super gloss that you want in your instrument. So I hope that you find this helpful and have fun French polishing.